Okay, excellent. Okay, everybody. Good morning. And we're moving right along. Now we're going to be learning the very last segment of the fifth chapter. And we discussed yesterday the inevitability of tshuva and how wondrous it'll be. It'll be one of the, it won't be one of the 10 wonders of the world. It'll be the most wondrous of wonders of the world. How the entire world is going to turn to tshuva. Now we're going to talk in this very last part of this particular chapter about the unique role that the Jewish people are going to play in this process. So Rav Kook says the following: Knesset Yisrael, the Jewish people, b'hargashata haruchanit ha'odefet, because of their extra sense of spirituality, hiya rishona b'olam ha'tshuva, it will be the first in the world of tshuva. Or to put it in different terms, the Jewish people are going to be the pioneers, the chalutzim. The chalutzim, they're going to be the pioneers of teshuvah. Now, this is an amazing idea here and a tremendous responsibility upon our shoulders. So let's talk about this idea. Rav Kook uses this word in Hebrew, b'hargashata haruchanit ha'odefet. Odef means extra. Odef, like in modern Hebrew, odef means change. When you one of the use of the term, like when you go, you go to you buy something and it costs 9 shekel, you give 10 shekel, you get a shekel back, hopefully, in change. That's called odef. So odef means that which is left over or more, right? So Rav Kook is saying every human being is made b'tselem Elokim, with the image of God. But there are different nations have kind of different uniqueness. I'm going to be silly right now, okay? So let's say the Germans, they specialize in being orderly. Yeah. This may or may not be true. I have no idea. But that's sort of the idea of, kind of this German sensibility of doing things in an orderly fashion. So what is the special uniqueness of the Jewish people? Tshuva. We live in an age of specialization. The Jewish people have a special hargasha ruchanit, the special kind of spiritual impulse. And therefore, we are the chalutzim of tshuva. The whole process by the world is going to do tshuva. The entire world, that's going to be led and by the pioneers of tshuva, which are the Jewish people. Now, the very first step here is, interestingly enough, is the Jewish people's return to its land. I was just talking to one of our distinguished learners here about who's going to make return to the Holy Land imminently. And that physical return is actually the first step in the Jewish people expressing that idea being chalutzim. It's just interesting, in the Zionist movement, the word chalutz, which means to be the pioneer, had developed a kind of secularized meaning of, the ones who came and formed the kibbutzim and drained the swamps and all that kind of thing. But the same notion is used in a spiritual sense of who are going to drain the moral swamps, the spiritual swamps, right? Those are the chalutzim. That's us. And the renaissance of the Jewish people in its land is actually the very first step in that process, and the spiritual return will be subsequent to that. So the fact that we now have the majority of the Jewish people in the world live in the Holy Land, this is an incredible miracle. We don't appreciate that. It's beyond belief. Remember, we talked about yesterday that tshuva will be a wondrous. The fact that there is a state of Israel in which the majority of Jewish people live in Eretz Israel, in the land of Israel, that's wondrous. The problem is we get used to things and it's crazy. But if you just think about it for a millisecond, you should be breathless with wonder. Okay, so that sort of physical return is the first step, which will lead to then the spiritual return of the vanguard of tshuva, which is the Jewish people. the notion that a physical return should precede the spiritual return shouldn't be such a strange idea, because if we just look at the construction of the first human being, so there's a certain order that God employed, because the Torah could have said that God took a soul and he said, oh, this soul needs to be put in a container, kind of floating around here. It gets kind of messy, I got to have a container. Okay, I'll create a body, and I'll take the soul, I'll wrap it up in this body. That's not what the Torah says. What the Torah say? That God took the dust, right? And only after they breathed into the soul into it. So you first have the physical creation, and then you have the spiritual creation. So that's why the physical return to the land, the creation of institutions of state and economy and science and all that kind of thing, that is kind of the construction of the body. And then the soul is then implanted in that. Okay, so that shouldn't sound strange at all. And we are in the very much in the midst of that whole process. And even people in this room are going to be literally joining that process of teshuvah, of return. Then Rav Kook goes on. He, the Jewish people, is hachativa ha'olamit. Sheskulat teshuvah titgaleh ba'tchila. It is that universal unit, or that world unit, that this capacity for tshuva will be revealed first within it. The Jewish people will be the same theme, the vanguard of tshuva. Now, Rav Kook uses this word chativa. Everybody see the word chativa in Hebrew? Chativa ha'olamit. So I translate it as unit. Maybe there's a more elegant English word we could use. Rav Kook here is actually paraphrasing. What does he say there?
One sector of humanity.
Sector. Sector is not a good translation, with all due respect to that translator there. But a unit is actually not very poetic, but it's much closer to the to what Rav Kook means. Why? Because unit probably I assume comes from what word? Unity. The sort of this the sense of oneness. Now that particular phrase chativa, okay, unit. By the way, it's used in the Israeli army like a brigade. A brigade is called a chativa. Okay, there's a unit. So that's based upon Gemara. So the Gemara says that we have a passage in the book of Devarim. It says in the book of Devarim, Et Hashem he'emarta hayom, that the Lord chose you today. Right? That's in Devarim, in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 26. And what is this all about? The idea of chosenness. So the Talmud says, Amar lehem HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael. So God said to the Jewish people, Atem asituni chativa achat ba'olam. You made me one unit in the world. One unit meaning unity. You made me a unity in the world. V'ani aseh etchem chativa achat ba'olam. And therefore, I'm going to make you, God says, also a unit, a unity, chativa. That's the word Rav Kook is using, a unity in the world. So what's that all about? Well, God says to Jewish people, you proclaim my unitness, my unity. How so?
What did they say?
Yeah, achdut also has the sense of togetherness. It's also related to the word achdut, to the word echad. But chativa is the word here that's used in the Talmud. How do we proclaim God's unity? Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. We proclaim God's unity. And so therefore God says, you know what? I'm going to make known to the world your unity. How so? Because we have a pasuk in Divrei Yamim, in the book of Chronicles. Chronicles 1, chapter 17. Umi ki amcha Yisrael. And who is like you, O Israel? Goy Echad. One nation. So Hashem is Hashem Echad, and we're Goy Echad. We're one Goy. One nation, right? One God. Okay? So the Jewish people have this special relationship with God because we have this kind of essential oneness, which is reflective of divine oneness. And that empowers us to be the pioneer of oneness in the world. That special task. So we can get t-shirts that say on the back, oneness, something like that.
Goy nation.
We're the people, we're the goy of oneness, goy echad. Now, that status, he nidchefet liot mutemet im ha'ora ha'elokit ba'olam. Very important. Because that's our nature, we are chativa achad. We are goy echad. We are the nation who is in our very kishkas. What are kishkas? In our very guts. Our very guts is this notion of proclaiming divine oneness, that divine oneness. So therefore, our very nature, nidchefet, it pushes us. Lidchof means to push. Nidchefet, it propels us. It pushes us to be mutemet, to be in harmony with the divine light in the world. You see, sometimes we think we have a compulsion, like to eat. Or we feel like we have these things, these deep desires which propel us and push us in certain areas which are often not healthy. But that's all superficial. You know what the real propulsion that every Jew has? To live in harmony with divinity in the world. Now, this is an extremely important point Rav Kook is making, because the Jewish people will illustrate to the world that to live in harmony with the divine will is not to impose some artificial restrictions, straitjacketing our naturalness. No, it's to express our naturalness, because the inner nature of the Jewish people and ultimately the entire world is divine. And therefore, to live a divine life is to be most authentically in harmony with the true nature of ourself. So we have that inner propulsion to be authentic, to authentically express who we are internally. She'en b'chet v'avon, to live a life in which there is no sin, to live a life in harmony with the divine will. And whenever the Jewish people behave in a way which is deviating from this essence of ours, which is this divine nature, that is a defect in the very nature of who we are as a nation. You see, if a nation, we talked about, just as being silly, that the nature of the German nation, they are specialists in order. Again, that may be stupid and may be silly and have nothing to do with reality, but just in order to make up an idea so you can illustrate this idea. So let's say there's the German nation acts in orderly fashion, right? So that's an alienation from their mission and from their essence. And so that kind of now it could be, let's say that they're not good in tennis. I'm making that up. Well, that's kind of, it's always good to be good in tennis, but that doesn't affect or injure their very essence, because their very essence is in a different thing. It's not playing tennis, it's doing things in an orderly fashion. For the Jewish people, what we are in our very essence is this nation of tshuva, the vanguard of tshuva, of living life in harmony with the divine will. So therefore, when the Jewish people deviates from that, that is an essential attack, an essential destruction of who we are as a nation. And ultimately, you can't live. No one can live a life which is out of sync with who we are. Things must align. There's different, especially more complementary with or alternative types of medicine. There's a strong theory, I think, even in conventional medicine. The body knows, the body is a natural motion or natural, what's the word I'm looking for? Inertia, that's not the right word, towards healing. I need the verb, a natural, the body heals itself. there's a
It alerts us if something's wrong.
it alerts something wrong, and it heals. It just needs the right conditions, right? It's not that the medicine heals you, or the medicine creates certain conditions for the body to do its natural motion towards healing.
It wants to be healthy.
It wants to be healthy, and it moves naturally towards that, unless there's something artificial which obstructs it. That's the Jewish nation. Our natural state is tshuva. Our natural state is to live in harmony with the divine will. It's just that there are things that obstruct it, okay? And therefore, it's inevitable that we do tshuva. It's inevitable that as a nation we do tshuva because it's simply the organism behaving in its natural, healthy way. And it's its natural momentum. It's a natural inertia. Is inertia? Does that mean?
No,
that means lack of movement.
Yeah.
It's natural flow somehow. So I don't know why the word is not coming to me, but everything. I think everybody understands the idea. So it has to be. And Rav Aviner, he quotes from the Maharal. The Maharal has a nice idea when he says, "Ki hamikre lo yatmid," something which is non-natural, which is a deviation from the essence of something. That's called mikre in the Maharal's language. Mikre. Mikre is something accidental, meaning something that's not essential. So something that's not essential cannot persist. The only thing that ultimately can persist, tamid, yatmid, the word always, is that which is essential. Essential. So the Jewish people ultimately have to align themselves with our most natural spiritual healing self, which is to be in harmony with the divine will. That's why we're the vanguard of tshuva. And he actually uses the image that we just used, health. This full health will return to the Jewish people. And it will beat within the Jewish people that healthy spirituality of tshuva. For tshuva, you'll feel bab rishona, and so the light of tshuva will appear among the Jewish people first. Now get this. Once that happens, once we become actualized as the vanguard of tshuva, that we act in harmony with our essential nature, that has to happen because things organically manifest their inner essence. You know what it's sort of like? I just thought of an analogy. Like you have something like a DNA. So you have, a cell, and then it divides, and it divides again. All the DNA there, all the genes, which will express the ultimate nature, that'll become this glorious specimen of humanity, like Leib Shlomo. So when you if you take a look at the embryo, you'd say, that doesn't look like a glorious manifestation of this finest specimen of a human being imaginable. Okay? It's just like an embryo. But it's all there. The genetic material is all there. That doesn't change. The genetic material requires a little bit of time and the right conditions for it to naturally express and manifest what it is. That's the Jewish people. We're sort of in an embryonic stage, but all the genetic material is there, as where spiritual genetic material is there, and it must manifest itself with the right conditions. That's the very nature. And when that happens, you know what's going to be? The Jewish people is going to be, let's look at the language again, a tzinor hamiyuchad. You know what a tzinor is? That's a good word to know when you move to Israel. Tzinor is a pipe. So when your pipes break and you call the plumber, tzinor, okay, a pipe. We're going to be the pipe, that unique pipe that there's going to flow through that pipeline of the Jewish nation, the sap of vitality, of yearning for tshuva to the entire world. We're going to be the conduit for this sap of vitality that's going to flow into the world. Al kol olam kulo, for the entire universe, which will shine throughout the world and will restore the world to its upright stature. That's the vanguard of tshuva. That's our function in the world. And I just want to conclude with the basis for this in the prophet Zechariah, this very famous a passage in the prophet Zechariah. Now, I just want to read that with you. I know that many of you are familiar with this pasuk, but so listen to this. The prophet Zechariah. So he says, and this is in Perek Chet, in the 8th chapter of the prophet Zechariah. And as soon as I can turn this page, Prophet Zechariah says the following. I didn't know turning a page was so hard. This is following. Komar Hashem. So says the Lord, the Lord of hosts. Bayamim hema. In those days, Asher yachaziku asara anashim mikol shonot hagoyim, that 10 people from all the nations of the earth, 10 people, be the United Nations, all the nations of the earth, they will hold on to, v'hechaziku b'chnaf ish Yehudi, they'll hold on to the corner of the garment of a Jew, Lamor, and they'll say, Neilcha imachem, let's go with you. Ki shamanu Elokim imachem, we heard the Lord is with you. That all the nations will grab onto the hem of the cloak of a Jew and say, we want to go with you. We heard the Lord is with you, right? That lead the way, because we know if we hang on to the hem of your garment, we're going to get to the right destination. That prophecy from the prophet Zechariah is the way Zechariah described what Rav Kook described as Israel as the vanguard of tshuva in the world.
Right.